Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I am your keeper, the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are Minions Serenity Star 13.
Hello.
Sora Luna.
Good evening.
Dr. Functional.
Zug Zug.
Geodes.
Hello.
And, SkepTok. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, everybody.
Hello. There's all sorts of stuff to talk about. You know, we gather articles and topics and stuff throughout the week. We could easily do a second show. We could easily do a 4-hour show. Part of my job is figuring out which stuff we're going to talk about and which stuff we're not going to talk about, just to kind of make sure Skep gets his bedtime, for one thing. Because, but one of the things we were talking about before the show was the fact that the Lords of the Night is drawing to a close, and for the very first time, I've heard about the legendarily cute baby that Satsu has. Everybody talks about this kid like this kid is like the new Shirley Temple for the 21st century or something, that this is like the cutest baby ever. So I've never seen the kid, just taking that as a given. But I saw a short with Satsu wearing his whole cook's getup with the Escoffier thing and all of his awards and certifications on his jacket. And it was just 30 seconds of him cooking something. And he was just standing at the stove. Now, in my opinion, you can never get a first impression back, right? You only get a first impression once. I've never seen Satsu before. I don't really know his work. I just have heard what other people said about him. But my very first impression of the man was he had like a kind of happiness and contentment about him as he was making this video, that if you could bottle that, it would be a potent narcotic.
That's a fair impression. That's exactly right on.
Yeah, he had kind of a charisma and likability that I don't see that often amongst people who just cook on YouTube. I think, in my opinion, that Scribe has got some great stuff going on, his solo stuff. Monkey's obviously doing really well. I think Satsu could be the biggest breakout star if that's what he wanted to do. I mean, in terms of like cooking and lifestyle stuff, I think he could just crush it, because he's like the kind of person you go, holy crap, I want to be friends with that guy. Now,
I want to see more of him.
Exactly, but pairing him up with Scribe isn't necessarily the best use of that man's talents. Because I just in 30 seconds, like, this guy has more raw talent and charisma. Plus, he's done the work. Look at the freaking jacket. This guy could be huge.
Can I offer an analogy, Harry?
Sure.
I like lemonade. Love lemonade. I love it. And I like it sour, you know? I like it really sour. That's what Scribe is, okay? Satsu is a perfectly done baron of beef. And when you pour lemonade on a perfectly done steak or roast, it spoils it somewhat. You can taste each flavor individually and appreciate each one. But together, frankly, I haven't thought they were always perfect.
Yeah, I think they could be much better apart than they are together. So to my mind,
I really think so.
I don't necessarily see this as a bad thing. I mean, yeah, Sora, you were saying you just really don't like change, right?
It frightens me. I don't like change. It's more like routine. I've been watching them since, I think, 2016. They've been apart first, when Monkey was apart, when SDA was apart. They were always at some point. I wasn't even country at that point. I was doing completely different. I went with them, travel with them, just listening and whatever. It's one of those things when it becomes routine. And like they were saying, their last one is 4.5 years, I think. They've been doing that nightly. And with very little breaks in between, even with a drop of one night in their schedule. And it's interesting to know. I can't catch them live anymore. I haven't been able to catch them live for the past year. So I've been in replays, and I love listening in the replays because it's an excellent way of, just in the car or on the bus. But I hope for greater things for them. So,
well, yeah. and so many people have so many memories of that show. I mean, that's where Sora and I met, for
Yes.
example, and that's where I
Yes.
met Prospero.
Mm-hmm.
So I met all of you.
Yeah.
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 A lot of the other people, even those that we don't really interact with, if you pop on in the chat and you haven't been in live chat, they'll be like, "Hey, how have you been?" And
Star, Mashisu. I mean,
Yeah.
all the
it's
chat
weird not
stars.
saying. It's weird not saying hi, Mash,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's strange.
or Nuts.
Oh yeah, no, that was
Yeah,
gonna be the weird one.
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyway, we could reminisce about that for 2 hours probably.
No, we can't.
Yeah.
That's also part of my job.
We can, we
So
just
part of
shouldn't.
my
That's what's more of it.
I realize that I've somewhat loosened up on my Martinet attitude toward timing, but we're not going to talk about that for 2 hours. For one thing, I'm actually kind of new to a lot of that stuff. I'm just literally giving you my first impression. Never underestimate the value of a first impression. This is one of the things, like when I've had graphic artists working for me, they say, "Hey, do you want to see my work?" As I'm going, "No, actually, I don't. I want to see something much closer to your finished product so that I can give you my first impression." Because once you get too close to something, you kind of lose objectivity. I just think Satsu's got an amazing amount of talent. And obviously, he
charisma.
does the hard work, or he wouldn't be doing the kind of schooling that he's doing.
And charisma.
And
And
he's chill as
charisma.
hell.
Yeah, extremely likable. And he wouldn't say anything. He just sit there and just had this look on his face. It's like, yeah, that's fantastic. Anyway, enough about shows that aren't this show. For anybody else have anything before I jump into the spreadsheet here?
No, let's get
Okay.
started with the
Let's get
Olympic
this
tragedy.
thing going. Okay, so everybody pretty much knows about this Simone Biles thing, and I'm just
Nope.
using this Reason article as a jumping off point because, their basic contention is that she doesn't owe the U.S. and everybody else anything. Now, I'm not sure I really buy into that particular argument, and I don't know how to read her mind. Nor am I a huge fan of the Olympics, but I figured this is something people might want to talk about. So grab any piece of the story you want and start talking.
All right.
Okay.
You go first.
All right. So she's 24 and a gymnast. I mean, I talked with this with my mom because she used to do gymnastics, and Romanians in gymnastics go like peanut butter and jelly.
Mm-hmm.
So she's
Oh, yeah.
like, she's too old. Like, what is she still doing? Is her thing. And now I know there have been older gymnasts who still go on there, and I don't know if that is just to show the world I can still do it or what. If they really care about medaling, or placing for a medal. But if the way I see it is, she should have made this decision before going all the way to Japan.
Agreed.
Before she kept somebody off the team, you mean?
Yep.
Exactly. Because that's what's, I think, is the infuriating thing about all this. She gets all the way there. She is, this article claims that she's the greatest gymnast of all time. Fuck off. Excuse me.
Yeah, she's
Broadly
not.
understood to be the best. No, she's not.
Nadia
Actually-
Comaneci was nothing.
Oh yeah, no.
Exactly.
She was,
Screw you. The first
Yeah.
almost perfect or perfect score.
yeah,
Yeah,
she was the
no.
first perfect. She was first perfect 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the girl from my state.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
Go
This
for it.
is, to me, as you are a professional athlete who is also an Olympian, right? You are held to a higher. You should be held to a higher standard. If you are having mental health issues, it affects everyone. She should not have gone to Japan.
It's a great
And-
cover story.
It's just, yeah, exactly. If her issue is she stepped out there on that floor and saw basically all the teenagers and all the other countries that produce gymnasts like a factory,
Yeah.
and realized that she's nothing compared to them for whatever reason, whether she didn't train enough the last couple of years, she injured herself and didn't properly do rehab, or whatever the reason is, she felt inferior, or she just like it broke her, or she just like, screw this, I don't want to even attempt anymore, and quit. And I'm sorry, that's like you do that if it's nothing serious at stake. This is the Olympics. I know a lot of people are saying, who cares about the Olympics anymore? No one's watching this year's. Who
Yeah.
cares? And I can understand some of that sentiment. It doesn't matter. You got there. And like Skep said, you've kept somebody off the team who may have been that could have been their one and only chance at an Olympics.
Yeah.
Can I agree with you and take it one step further?
Yes, please.
The reason you get curdled milk bullshit like this is because the coaches on the team do not stand up to prima donna athletes the way coaches in the past do. Now they coddle them. They say, as long as you're you and you're doing you, we'll let you do anything, say anything. We are slaves to you. We'll do anything you. That is exactly the wrong thing to do. These women are young women who have never had any power, political, financial, or otherwise, in their lives, and they go through this extremely fast increase in visibility, power, money, everything, and so they're riding along like this, and it takes management. You have to manage a young person like that. You have to essentially help raise them. And in coaches in years past provided a lot of that. And it doesn't seem to be happening anymore. Now they're just coddled, and sure enough, they show up and they do stupid things. If they do happen to get a medal, they, pull their pants down in public, or, flip a bird at the American flag, or whatever it happens to be, because that they haven't been trained. They haven't been taught how to behave in a classy way in public. It really just a sickening representation of how sick and spoiled and fat we are as a country.
Well, and there's also the thing of like, and this is one of my problems, is that she took her, but she has been treated like she's a goddess for the last 5 years by everybody because of her last performance, and she's treated like she is the be all end all. And then after this, when she announced that she was pulling out because of something didn't feel right,
she has the twisties.
That's what, haha, I knew that's what it was called.
But
it's a weird thing that supposedly messes with their equilibrium when they're in the middle of a flip and they can't, or something like that.
Yeah, and I think there's a very substantial mental component.
Oh yeah, well the thing is,
if it even exists at all.
Well, the thing is
one job. Your job is to spin in the air and not fall over. That's your job. That's the whole point. Sorry.
Well, it's also the fact that this doesn't randomly appear, because inner ear and equilibrium problems don't just go boom and then just start happening.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't just appear
she knew.
Where she landed in Japan.
She very much knew, and it would have shown if she was on the plane. That long of a fucking flight? Yeah. No, it would have shown up.
Let's not indulge in amateur otolaryngology here.
Well, no, but the thing is that there was a lot of people saying that, if it was less of a gymnast, she would have gotten hurt. Simone Biles is that good that with this ability, she was with twisting, she was still able to land and stuff like that. She's and it's what Skep said. She specifically has been babied this entire time. She's been treated like a second coming.
No, hold on. This whole thing with the goat, wasn't she trying to sort of market herself as the greatest of all time? I mean, she was doing that. She was calling herself the goat and using the goat somehow as some sort of marketing thing.
That was started because people like Oprah and everybody and Michelle Obama were kissing her ass. That's where that started.
Now that she's an actual goat, that should work well for her.
Well, she can be a scapegoat if nothing else.
She's no Carrie Strug. Carrie Strug pulled some shit off, man, and she did it with an injured leg
too.
Oh my God, yes.
And that's part of what athleticism is supposed to be. The thing about sports, there's a bunch of things that you learn from sports about tenacity, hard work, sportsmanship, teamwork. There's all these different things you can learn. When you see somebody like Carrie perform in that kind of situation, that's
With-
like a kind of bravery. That's
A
a good
broken
example. That's
fucking
what people,
ankle.
that's
And
what
still
you want people to
9.1.
see. Yeah,
She's still-
amazing. But and even the fact that I know about it and I don't care at all about women's gymnastics in the Olympics
Yeah.
tells you that it was a big
That's
deal.
all I think
But
about.
let me move. Yeah, let me move on to the next Olympic thing.
Quickly.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I'm like, I probably know even less than you do. The Olympics never really. But I when I first saw that article, I looked into mental health. First of all, it's not something new that a top tier athlete, especially an Olympic athlete, at some point has to bow out for the pressure being too much on them. And another statistic was women in these types of elite competition, athletic competitions, 300 to 400 times more likely than male counterparts to withdraw for such.
In the gymnastics or just overall?
Overall, it was throughout all what they considered top tier athletic competition. So
Well,
something like gymnastics would be much higher for men in comparison to women. So they'd be almost on par because they're pushed really hard. Something like hockey, men almost never gave up. Basketball almost never gave up. Whereas you could see dramatic spikes on the other other genders' statistics of how many people would drop out in the average course of like a decade.
Well, to kind of the one thing with that is that, to be completely frank, and there's a reason for it, women's sports doesn't pay as well.
Yeah.
So,
That's
like,
true.
women's basketball, they're going to bounce. Women's hockey, they're going to bounce. Like, women's softball, which I don't even think there's a national team for the women's softball or baseball, they're going to bounce because there's just no point. Like, and I'm not saying that men aren't strong, because they are. I'm not saying that. But when you're getting paid $20 million, ooh, boy. When you get paid like $20 million plus, or hell, if you're like third string like football and you're getting paid $700,000 to just sit your ass on a bench, you're going to push through a little bit more because that payout is huge. But I can kind of understand it because women so I think that number's a little skewed, but I can see at least being a little true, but still I think it's a little skewed.
Yeah, it was just all it was averages.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, Elwyn's right. Women's bodies also change drastically. Period of time.
Yeah.
More than men's do. Like if we don't work out for a day, it's done.
Well, I think also psychologically, men just have that higher, again, on average, higher drive to compete, and that lust, that hunger.
And also with women athletes, if you decide to have a child,
oh yeah, no,
right,
done.
bouncing back, and even if you're at peak and you keep working out as much as is healthy during pregnancy, if you end up having a cesarean,
oh no, yeah,
it's going to take a long while to healthily get back safely to the point, and you might not even get back to the peak physicality you were before, even if you're still fit and you haven't lost the weight or whatever. It's still, you've had trauma to muscles and all that sort of stuff. So obviously there's certain sports that are easier to get back to than others, but I mean, I don't really blame them for dropping off.
Yeah,
right?
same.
I really can't. Where I can blame them is in this particular situation with Biles. Because if she had bowed out a year before or whenever to say, hey, due to some personal issues, I am just going to sit back from this Olympics. I'm going to start coaching. I'm going to do anything. Else it would have been very respectable. Maybe people will complain, but she could imagine if she becomes a world star coach and brings other girls to gold. Like, there's a bunch of other things she could do. But I'm sorry. To me, this is very disappointing and unimpressive.
It is. And as far as the article goes, the part where she doesn't owe us anything, it's not an individual achievement. It's not an individual achievement because she's not going there on her own dime. She's part of a team that's
Right.
a national team which is fundraising on the assumption that we're going to represent America. There's a
We're gonna
whole
get
bunch of
gold.
moving parts in here that and she's not the only part of it. All the way down to the person who washes the towels and sanitizes the dressing rooms. Everybody, there's a whole bunch of people all doing this. Some are doing it for a paycheck, other people are doing it for patriotic reasons, some people are doing it for both. But to simply argue that, well, she's an individual and this is not about everybody else, no, it is, because she joined up with an organization to do this as part of an American team. So pretending that it's just her personal decision and it doesn't influence anybody else is BS. But speaking of BS, look at that segue. Pink offers to cover bikini fines for Norwegian women's beach handball team. Or I guess this is actually beach volleyball. But
Yeah, it's beach volleyball. Yeah.
this is dumb, but I understand it. On the one hand, it's big business, right? You've got this one sport that gets a lot of people viewing the Olympics who might not otherwise. There's going to be a lot of 15-year-old boys and a lot of 35-year-old men. There's
Is
going
this
to be
just
a lot
because
of
of the
guys trying to
butts?
simp. It's because of the butts.
Bikini-
so
yeah,
they're
bikini
saying
bottom.
they have to wear the bikini shorts. And so they're getting fined for wearing just shorts,
men still have to wear
like regular.
Speedos?
And I don't see the deal. If it doesn't interfere with the function of the game, what is the damn point? Unless you're literally admitting that part of the Olympic committee wants to raise money by maximizing the sex appeal of
The wank appeal.
supposedly athletic event.
Like my
Because
thing
those-
is, well, just speaking from a girl's point of view, those shorts they're wearing in that picture, if that's what they're doing in volleyball, those ride up worse than those bikini bottoms ever will.
They go right up the crack.
They go right.
Yeah.
It's like the bikini bottoms. At least it's a very minimal amount of fabric, so it's just like you're done. But
They
those will
have to
go
use-
everywhere.
Like in pageantry for the bikini stage, they use the butt glue, like to glue
Yeah.
the bikini. They have to be using that for this too.
Mm.
I don't think that would work though. But yeah, that
I
like
think they would sweat it off.
It's a
yeah,
sponsorship opportunity.
because at least with the butt glue, there's air on the other side. This they're not. It's just nothing but sand and wet, and that's not good.
The point is they should be able to wear whatever
Yes.
functions for the sport. This is
Yes.
stupid. The fact that Pink is getting some really cheap advertising out of it because
She
she's
usually
just throwing
does
a
this
little bit of
kind
money
of
to,
Plus-
to cover it. It's not a. This is dumb.
But
Is-
these
is
are
it-
the rules. You don't go to the competition to protest the rules. If you have a
Well, they're
fucking
paying the
problem with
fine.
the rules, you address them before the issue. This is nothing but advertising for them, for the handball, whatever, for Pink,
Yeah.
for everybody. If you have a problem with the rules, you address them before it. You go to the competition.
Yeah.
First of all. Second of all, you know who came up and established those rules previously?
Who?
Female athletes from decades ago.
Yep.
Ago. They're the and the big narrative I've seen on this, and sorry I'm getting a little heated because I'm sick of seeing this shit, is that
No,
this
no.
is the objectification of women by other women, you fucking moron. Sorry.
Well, it's also other women in China that are helping kidnap women and send them off as brides. So I'm not sure that's the metric by which we should measure things. It's kind of an extreme counterexample, but the fact that other women are doing it, I'm generally in favor of freedom. If these people say they don't want to do this thing, it really should be. I mean, in terms of athletics, it should be about whatever garment functions best for the athletics. And it always seemed like possibly it was a little more sexualized than it needed to be. However, I'm a capitalist because, a lot of these women go on to get sponsorships and all this other stuff and don't mind the attention. I wouldn't want to make it so that they're forced to cover up either. I would just let
But,
people wear whatever they
Harry,
want to wear.
you're missing a point here.
Clearly.
You're missing a serious point here.
Okay.
Those women, if they were in full chador, would be just as effective and just as attractive as women in bikinis. And that's what we here at Minions believe.
Yeah, I have a solution for all of this. Okay, screw all of this. This is what we do.
Oh God. Oh,
Robots. We
God,
just,
that was
we just let robots do it.
That was
robots
beautiful.
a robot plays basketball at the Olympics.
I don't know.
And
Those
it's
shorts
even-
are pretty revealing.
It's
Yeah.
also a black robot too. Those
was-
are the
what
best
was-
ones. Those are
what
the
was-
best basketball robots.
What was the movie that had the teams of robots against each other, and it was sport, but then they would start tearing
Robot
each other
Dogs?
apart. I can't remember the name of it. No, it was a long time ago. It was like 10 years before you were born. Crap, can't remember the name of it. But anyway, no, Rock'em Sock'em Robots. That was when I was a kid. Anyway,
Yeah.
no,
Versus the
This-
Hungry Hippos.
no. I think actually this will become very entertaining, and it's almost going to be like, you know, that demolition show where the guys build the robots and then they put them in the death ring and they try and kill each other.
Mhm.
I think that's going to happen to professional sports because the robots will be more interesting to watch. They'll do it better, and most importantly, wait for it, they'll be less expensive.
And they don't get the
Yes.
twisties. But okay, think about it this way. Suppose
Great point, actually.
Suppose we use the robots to play beach volleyball. Now I know who's going to win this contest. It's going to be the damn South Koreans with their creepy sex robots. It's going to be the South Koreans. They're gonna win this stupid thing because they've been the one making all the volleyball robots already. It's just no. We don't need robots playing Olympic sports. I'm dead set against it. That's just my thought.
Well, it's kind of pointless because it's all about programming at that point. And it's
That-
kind of like,
well,
I mean, it's
and it's just
you're
Also
not-
engineering.
well, yeah.
That
But it's-
robot is just as attractive as any other woman, and if that
there-
robot
Look at
identifies
that
as a woman,
sexy.
that is a robot woman, and she can get pregnant.
I'm sure if you go
Going-
on Tumblr for 5 seconds, you will find someone who will F that robot.
Going forward, do we then need to
Don't
create a
have sex with
separate
robots.
league for these robots, or do we include them in the Premier League, most commonly known as male leagues? Because I would love to see an all-robot league of, you know, basketball or hockey
Gentlemen. Extraordinary League of
or
Robots.
volleyball or whatever.
Mhm.
Like that afterwards they could beat each other up and have like rocket soccer robot death matches.
Woo!
Woo!
I honestly think that's going to be the new gladiator arena, is like actual human android style robots fighting. Since
Well,
we
can
can't,
we have?
you know,
We could have the cyborg league. We could
People.
have the humans on performance enhancing drugs versus robots league. The possibilities really are endless.
The New York Neurons versus
versus the,
we could have the mutants and the robots playing together on the same team.
versus the
Versus
Atlanta
Wasilla.
androids. That's what I was trying
and
to
the
get to.
Wasilla tweakers. Yeah, it'd be
Oh,
great.
God.
Isn't Wasilla, Alaska, the meth capital of Alaska? I can't remember.
And
I'm
stop
sure.
sexualizing the robots.
Yeah,
Oh, that is all
actually,
stop, nobody.
I find the whole sexualizing robots thing to be really creepy. I don't know, maybe I'm just old, but yeah, it's a bit much. Or maybe it's just Battlestar Galactica's made me scared.
By the way, the meth
Yeah.
capital of Alaska is Wasilla, which is
Oh,
where
it's
Sarah,
Wasilla.
Sarah Palin is from.
Yeah, exactly.
3 people.
Oh dear.
Why she's
That's
not
the
already-
reason why that's the reason why she can see Canada from
It's in the
not
water.
Russia from her doorstep.
Oh, is there a video? Can we see this thing in action?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the
God.
basketball shooting robot.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Sure.
Yeah,
Oh Lord.
Oh.
There we go.
There we
It's
go.
manufactured by Toyota. Of course it is. And yet
Isn't
they
the
pulled.
other cute robot by Honda?
Yep.
The little white one.
That one came
Okay,
out
by
years
now
ago.
somebody would have stolen the ball. Like this.
Oh
is
yeah.
Look at that.
no, because the
Oh.
defense going to be just as lame as he is.
Yeah. The robot is called Q. I love the fact Toy.
Lame.
Oh
Go,
God,
Q,
that's
go.
creepy. That's creepy. Oh, that's creepy. Oh, that's creepy.
No, he's moving all the way back there, and now he's gonna shoot from like the
So
center.
is he part of the Q continuum?
Apparently,
No,
it's
no.
CUE. Yeah.
pretty
Lame.
incredible.
Watch this.
It's just a. It's
Watch
just
this. Watch this.
Hey Harry, it would be helpful if you made it bigger.
Watching. Oh,
woohoo!
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's great. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
God.
I totally look forward to our robot overlords. beating us at
Overlords, yeah.
basketball.
I, for one, welcome
All right.
them with open arms.
Delta. Okay, CDC warns that Delta variant is as contagious as chickenpox and may make people sicker than original COVID.
Then cool,
So-
whoever got COVID before will be fine. Like
Yeah.
chickenpox.
So, a confidential CDC document said Delta is more transmissible than the common cold, the 1918 Spanish flu, smallpox, Ebola, MERS, and SARS.
Is it
I
more
like this
deadly?
one.
Come on.
Well, it says more transmissible. More transmissible.
Yeah,
So,
You know
it's
what's
more
more
deadly.
transmissible than the Delta variant? Stupidity.
Oh yeah.
yeah. If this is actually true,
Excuse me.
a face mask isn't going to do you any good.
Yeah, it's not going to do
whatsoever.
shit.
No.
Chicken
Yes,
pox
it
and
actually
measles and
will
stuff
do.
is going to be
Hold
terrible.
on. Hold
ahead.
on. Hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
Masks do help. They do help. Listen, there's not nearly as much virus particles just free floating in the air. What happens is the way that they get out of your body is they hitch a ride. They hitch a ride on globules of mucus. I know it's gross, but you're just going to have to deal with this for a minute, okay? Those globs come out of your mouth and out of your upper respiratory tract, out of your nasopharynx and out of your mouth, and you blast those out into the air, and all these little riders are on these things that are literally 1,000 to 20,000 times the size of a virus. That thing is going to get caught in a mask, and all that virus is not going to get into your respiratory system. So masks do help, and let's be very careful not to put a message out there that masks don't help. Here's another thing just before you get started, and that is that chickenpox is a funny disease. We used to have chickenpox parties. When I was raising my children, I took my son to 2 chickenpox parties and could not infect the little bastard.
There were kids spitting on them, and
Oh yeah, taking baths in infected saliva, doing all the stuff. Nothing would infect that child. The next year he got chickenpox. He just came home from school and started breaking out of spots. This stuff is not nearly as linear or as straightforward as you think it is. There are a lot of pieces to this, and unless you've taken the time to really drill down into this and understand transmissibility vectors and understand the dynamics of what happens when virus particles hit the air, and what it takes, what viral load it takes to cause an overgrowth, and what the antibody picture in the individual, how much of a difference that makes as to how hard it is to achieving an overgrowth, or infection. That's the medical term for infection. We need to not send out the conclusion on the airwaves, because we are here on the internet. The internet is forever, and we don't want to put out information that could lead people to say, well, I'm going to blow off my mask because Minion said, that was bullshit. It's not. They do help some. But they're not perfect. You still have to be careful. And I still say, and I've been consistent about this all the way through, social distancing is your best friend here. It is more effective than a mask, and the combination of a mask and social distancing will probably keep you safe.
Okay.
I will
I
stand by that statement.
I have a ton of context to add, because I think you misunderstood. Well, I poorly communicated. I had not finished saying what I was going to say. When
I'm
I
sorry.
say that we're basically... No. I mean, I totally get it, because early on in this whole pandemic thing, there was a fairly novel and simple experiment they did where they just took masks and they showed how they impacted the flow of aerosols through the mask material, and they just used a laser to basically quantify what those things actually did. They tested different materials. And what I was talking about is, if this is as transmissible as they're saying it is, if you take a bunch of people who aren't trained in proper mask wear, you send them into, say, an office, and they're all wearing their masks in an enclosed space, they're probably not going to be very well protected.
No,
My concern
that's
is
true.
the practical application of masks, given this level of transmissibility. When I say it doesn't work, I mean as a control strategy that's going to basically save us, it doesn't work. It's not fit for purpose. I wear
Yes.
a mask.
And
I
yet
wear a
there's some-
mask all the time. I wear a mask when I go to the market, even though I'm not required to, because
Yeah.
I have people in my life that I don't want to make sick. I don't want to bring Delta home to them. I'm not worried about me dying, but I don't want to make other people sick. So I encourage people to wear the mask. But when I say it doesn't work, I mean, I don't think this is going to be an effective enough
Okay.
public health initiative. I didn't mean to imply that wearing a mask is of no value.
No.
I just mean that I think that it's not going to stop the spread of this thing.
Allow me to amend my comments. Well, not amend, but supplement my comments with this. And that is that, I agree fully with what Harry just said, first of all. And secondly, that masks, if you're going to wear a mask, don't wear the same mask day after day. Don't put it up on your dresser at night, go to sleep, and then put that same mask on in the morning. Paper masks are for the fireplace after you wear them once. Here's why. What will happen is you will start to get this moist layer deep in the mask, which is full of mucus globs that we've been talking about, yours, and full of potentially viral particles that are sitting there growing like a media. It's like wearing a petri dish of virus on your face if you're not keeping your mask clean. And all you have to do really is throw it in the washer. If it's cloth mask, throw it in the washer. And the paper mask, you can buy them in case lots for very little money. So, I'm like Harry. I wear a mask everywhere. I'm not. If you think I'm going to infect my grandkids with this shit, you got another thing coming. I don't care. The young people don't have a bad time with it. Some of them die. Fuck that. That's not going to happen on account of me. So we wear masks.
Yep. So
Rant over. I'm sorry.
No.
Well,
you're fine. I guess the thing is I worry about. I was probably just being defensive because it's important to me that you have a high opinion of me, and I don't want you to think I was stupid enough. That's why I really wanted to get out. It's like, okay, Skep, stop talking so I can tell you I wasn't being an idiot. That was all.
No. I never thought you were being an idiot. I just wanted.
But you're right. I don't want to accidentally send the wrong impression to people either.
That's what I was trying to.
Do we need a nasty little message from YouTube about it? We're spreading misinformation. No, we don't spread misinformation here.
No. In fact, I think so much of you. I'm actually building you a shrine and back. So.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, it's tasteful and understated.
It's next to the tomatoes.
Right. It's the tomato patch.
So, let's see.
Can I say something real quick?
You absolutely may.
The thing is that the information I go off of is the Dutch study and several other studies that have proven that there is almost no difference between people who wear masks and don't wear masks when it comes to getting the disease. Now, I understand that they do help, but also the problem with cloth masks is even if you throw them in the washer, none of the washers get to the heat to destroy everything, including the fact that people are still not going to listen and they get bacterial problems.
That isn't what the heat doesn't destroy. The heat does not destroy the virus, hon. It's the mechanical action of the water and the high level of phosphates in the detergent you use. So use a phosphate detergent to be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, the soap denatures it. So
yeah.
But the real problem with the cloth is that some people, there's so much latitude in terms of what you can use. Polypropylene actually acts to make the aerosol worse.
Yes,
there are things that some people make masks out of that actually make it worse. But yeah, I've seen that Dutch study that you're talking about.
And there's been a few other studies that have pointed to the same thing. And I'm not saying people shouldn't wear masks.
Those are narrative-driven studies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry.
You're welcome to have that opinion.
Ask the surgeons. Ask the surgeons who wear masks in those funny rooms when they cut people open. Why do they wear masks? Odd thing.
Fair enough.
Well, go ahead and if you want to say anything else about it, Serenity, and then we're going to move on to the next thing.
No,
okay.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, we're not going to solve the mask problem here tonight. Okay. CDC study shows 3/4 of people infected in Massachusetts coronavirus outbreak were vaccinated, but few required hospitalization. I mean, to my mind, it's a coronavirus. This thing seems like it's going to just be like a new, really, really shitty cold once it stops being novel. Right? I mean, the thing is,
Okay.
it was a novel virus, and that caused a lot of people a lot of trouble. A lot of people died. Which
Well,
was
they
really
didn't have the
terrible.
T cell activity that they needed to fight the thing off. Now you've got vaccinated people with heightened T cell activity in their bloodstream, and so they're able to fight it off better. This is almost a
Right.
non-story.
And the B cells also, later on, after all the T cells and the antibodies are gone, the B cells are still sitting there going, oh, I recognize that. It may
Right.
take a while. You may still get ill,
Right.
but you're not going to die from it, probably.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so
I wasn't going
This-
to go into the manufacture of the T cells, but yes.
yeah,
that's
so we're
exactly
seeing a
right.
lot of people getting sick, and the hospital numbers are getting worse. But luckily, we're not seeing as many. The morbidity isn't increasing as fast as we might be afraid it would increase. That's basically the gist of this thing. And of course, Delta is just making a lot more people sick, but luckily, a lot of them are not dying. But let's see. Skipping ahead. So Israel has decided that they're just going to give boosters to everybody over the age of 60.
Mazel
And
tov.
this is one of those where I don't entirely understand. I guess maybe I'm missing something because it seems like they really need a booster of something that's adjusted for the new variants rather than just a booster of the old thing. Yes, getting the antibody counts back up would be helpful, but not nearly as helpful as maybe getting a newly retargeted vaccine.
They may not have the wherewithal to brew up a new vaccine for every variant of this thing. That's what I suspect.
Well, this is where
And
Novavax
this
is going
has
to be
a-
really useful.
Yeah, this has a quality standard of BTN, better than nothing, as we used to say in the ad biz.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so they're pushing the boosters, and of course we don't know what the CDC is going to do because they always seem to be about a week behind all the information at least. I don't know why it takes them so long to catch up with everything. I guess I do know why. They're a big bureaucratic nightmare. Any thoughts?
All right. Yeah, I'm trying to let other people talk. That's why I'm being silent.
I don't want to get us in trouble.
Okay.
My only comment is if you need the vaccine, get the vaccine. I don't know. I would
Yeah.
get it if it means I can travel because I'm in a position where I'm not able to travel without them. So my hands are tied.
Yeah, if they came to me today and said, Harry, you need another one of these things, I would probably go ahead and get the booster, even though the last dose I got kicked my ass. But
See,
it's-
I had no side effects at all. And
Yeah.
I really, really would love to do an antibody test just to see if there's any. Because I after hearing a lot of people I know having side effects, whether here people on stream or in personal life, and me not, except for having a very good nap, not having any,
Yeah, I'll tell you, I had to go to bed. I had to spend most of the day in bed. I just felt lousy, and got up about 2:00 in the afternoon, and I started feeling fine again. I had the shot the day before. The second shot was what nailed me because I'm 70 years old, and hateful, mean.
probably.
but it's Elwyn's in the chat. I don't know if she's talking specifically here about Pfizer or in general booster shots. Perhaps talking about it's a cash grab. Maybe it is. I don't know. I just know is if they're going to be using the vaccines as a method of controlling travel, which they are doing right now, I'll comply because that's just the way it is. And if they're going to add that all medical healthcare professionals and have to get it, I'm going to have to get it anyway, just like I do, like we do with flu shots.
I got actually hit with the do you have your vaccination stuff with you last night. I was shocked. This is the first time anybody has basically told me I need to produce my papers, please. And it caught me completely off guard. I wasn't really expecting it. I went to a co-location facility to check on some machines, and I was wearing a mask and everything else. Nobody else there was wearing a mask, but I was wearing my masks. Like I said, there's some vulnerable people in my life. And they said, "Oh, well, do you have proof of vaccination?" I'm like, "Say what?" It's like, "Oh, well, you can't take your mask off if you don't have proof of vaccination on file." It's like, really? Well, I'm wearing the mask anyway, and you're going to change the rule in 5 days anyway when the CDC changes their policy. So I'm not even going to bother going through this paperwork with you.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, it was just like it is a little weird having people that you don't have any kind of relationship with, for the most part, asking you for health information.
Yeah,
It just feels kind of creepy to somebody my age.
It feels very invasive. And here we have to have apps. So we have the ArriveCan app, where you're basically logging in and having to show freaking who is at the airport, just random people whose their 9 to 5 job is to check your passport and shit. I mean, that's one method of security, but then they're also asking to see, like, hey, you get a stick stuck up your nose, show me your lab work. It's weird, but there we go. I mean, is it any different than if you want to get a certain visa for a certain country, and to get that visa they demand?
I'm seeming a co-location facility wanting to know if I've got my papers on me. It's just the ease with which people who I don't really have a relationship with, or it's not like it's the travel people. It's just like, oh, you want to come to this? There's a brewery in Santa Cruz that will not let you come inside unless you can show that you've been vaccinated.
What's happening in Ireland right now?
Yeah, it just seems that a lot of people that I have no real relationship with seem to think it's their position to start gathering health information. I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just saying it feels really, really weird.
It feels weird because you're in a country that has the HIPAA. You guys, it's called HIPAA in the States, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So HIPAA there, PIPA, which is kind of different here in Canada. So you have these laws basically protecting you from having your data, your medical data given out, or having to be asked about your health care by people who should not need to ask, right? So yeah, that I can see why it feels like this is very wrong, or strange at the very least.
Wasn't that the basis for Roe v. Wade too?
Oh yeah, the privacy rights. I don't even want to get into Roe v. Wade.
Yeah. Let's not get into a Fourth Amendment thing.
Yeah, let's not get into that one. But the question now becomes: it always amuses me to see what the French will put up with versus the things that actually annoy them.
Can I, before we go,
Please.
one last thing? Because Ellen's saying she'll need it. She needs proof of full vaccination for surgery. That reminded me. So, surgeons here, and I don't know if this is Canada-wide, it could just be BC. So, surgeons here, if you're not vaccinated, you get your hours cut. So, hours cut means that you're not going to be able to perform surgeries or procedures on as many patients as you usually can, meaning there's going to be a hell of a lot of backlog if you delay getting your shot. So they are willing to put people delay more and more and more. I'm just putting it out. So that's what they're doing. And of course, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, finish your thing.
Oh no, I just think it's just beyond stupidity for that. Now, okay, I understand they use like, oh well, if you're at that high level of a medical professional, you have to set an example. But at the same time, you will rather harm a bunch of people waiting for colonoscopies, potentially missing cancers, potentially killing them. And okay, maybe the delay isn't a lot, but I know here it is. there's a huge wait list.
Hmm.
And it's only going to get bigger when they're cutting people's hours.
The egregious part of all that is it's in direct violation of the Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms up here. They cannot do that. They cannot restrict your ability to work, your ability to travel within Canada. There are border checkpoints all along the provincial borders. And this is becoming a huge legal issue.
Is there a case that you can cite that I could go look at?
Not that I could cite, because this is unprecedented.
Well, no, but you said there's cases going on now. I was just wondering if there was a case I could go look at.
Well, just cases of people, like Sora said, being restricted from hours in their job, or being restricted travel across.
I mean,
the border.
court cases. Court case.
Well, I have seen news stuff about the travel stuff, so I can corroborate that part of it. But then again, I don't live in Canada, so
Yeah,
this
well,
might
I
be
mean,
more a
there's no
Viva
court
Fry
cases
thing.
just yet, because I mean, this is again unprecedented that this stuff is happening. I'm curious to see what, if anything, will come of it.
Yeah.
If people will file some kind of grievance in line with the charter. I know Section 4 of the charter specifically references restricting Canadian citizens or permanent residences, free movement of travel within Canada, the freedom to leave Canada, the freedom to enter Canada, and Section 4D, I want to say. It was
Okay.
lower down there, that also addresses the
Not important. Not important which section. Tell us what it says.
I'm trying to remember. It was the you cannot infringe on somebody's ability to maintain. I want to say employment, but it might be a different word. You cannot restrict them based on anything other than the needs of the company. There was a word, I'm not a legal expert, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm gonna find it and continue.
Okay, can we talk about the French?
Let's talk about
Oui,
the
oui.
France.
So the French are upset. When the French
You
get
mentioned
really,
my
really worked
Freeze.
up, get really, really worked up about stuff, I actually find it to be kind of interesting. The whole yellow vest thing. It's like, man, farmers and fuel prices, they are very, very passionate about that. It's like, I cannot get my turnips to market. So, let's see, some 160,000 people, including far-right activists and members of France's Yellow Vest movement, protested Saturday across the country against a bill requiring everyone to have a special virus pass to enter restaurants and mandating COVID-19 vaccinations for all healthcare workers. Man, I just, like, it's not so much the details of this, it's just that a lot of people seem to be upset, and sometimes it's easier to kind of think about the why people are butthurt about something when you look at a different group of people rather than looking at your own country. The French, every now and then they don't like Macron. You know, that whole sort of ruling order. They're just not on board with his what they refer to him as Jupiterian sort of rule from these people. I mean,
If I were Macron and somebody invited me down to hey, let's go look at the Place de la Concorde, I think I would say no, thanks.
Yeah,
Don't need a
it's just
haircut.
mess. I find the French to be. Sorry.
A little off at the neck.
Yes.
Thank you. Somebody got my joke. Thank you.
Was
Thank
it
you.
the national razor that shaves so close?
That's right. Yes. Guillotine. Yeah, I remember the Mad Magazine send up guillotine. It's sharp and clean. It never makes an error, and it helps our reign of terror.
The best a
All
neck
right.
can get.
So let's see. I think the next section, because is what I referred to as mostly growing economy. Let's see, where are we? Unemployed Americans file lawsuits against states ending COVID relief. I would think that they're probably, when people talk about unemployment in the United States, they have this tendency to look at just the one number, which is horribly inaccurate anyway, right? Because it doesn't count a lot of things. But there is such a thing as regional unemployment. And, really the U.S., how many Federal Reserve districts are there, Skep? Isn't it 5?
No. There's more than, I think there's, hang on. I have to look up the number. Just talk amongst yourselves.
But the point being that like the Pacific Northwest is one economic area where a lot of those things sort of share, common fates and interests and things. Much like the Northeast is a common area, and a lot of the Southwest is common, and California is its own region. So I don't pretend to say that there are
12. I was going to say 12. I thought it was 12.
That don't still need unemployment benefits, but there's this. I can't get this to line up. There's this big debate going on now in the news about, on the one hand, they're saying, oh, we need to cut these unemployment benefits because people won't go back to work. But I would not be at all surprised if there are parts of this country where they probably still need these unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
Because I certainly, I love tough love as much as the next person, but I don't want to hurt people who actually need this help. At the same time, we've got a lot of these different stories, like this one here. People are just walking out in the middle of shifts, what it's like to work in a restaurant right now.
Now, that makes a lot of sense given the previous story.
Yeah, well, Bill, this is me trying to reconcile what the news is telling me, right? The news is telling me multiple things, and they can't all be true simultaneously unless,
everywhere.
There's some nuance to it that I don't quite understand. Now,
they can be different. They can be true in different places.
Yeah,
but they can't be true across the board. Right.
Has worked in the hospitality industry. I've worked in the hospitality industry, and customers sometimes kind of suck. Yeah. But what I've seen going to some places just to sort of pick up food and stuff is that it may not just be that the people who work there don't feel like they have to be there because like they have the option of just going home and getting enhanced unemployment benefits, for instance. But I do think that a lot of people are behaving worse than they used to. Like there's this wave of just people are just being shitty when they go out to these restaurants. Has anybody else seen this phenomenon or?
Definitely.
Yeah.
People are getting like it's bottling up when they're at home so much or in their home life with their family, and when they're out in public dealing with other people. It doesn't have to be, the service industry, just strangers on the street. They seem a lot more quick to explode, quick to snap at another person, which is something. I mean, yes, Canadians, there's that stereotype we're all very polite or whatever, but even that notion of that certain level of politeness, even when people are having disagreements on the street, has seemingly gone out the window.
Yeah. It's a lot of also this increased entitlement. Everyone is entitled to everybody else's time and consideration, and it's only me, not you. So like when you think it's only you and not me, then it's the fight. Now to be fair, I haven't seen that go down in restaurants. However, I do know that a lot of the places are constantly, there's hiring signs all over the place. They just cannot get staff.
Huge turnover now.
They're just not being able to. But then if you go to like fast food places, yes, I've seen that the short temper, the annoyance, the wait 30 seconds and you'll get your thing, but you just explode because it should have been 30 seconds earlier that you got your drink. Yeah.
Look at who they worship. Look at who they love. Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, wet ass pussy, prima donna assholes. They listen to that stuff all the time, and they want to be prima donnas. Look at how they entertain
They
themselves.
think they thugs.
yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. I can't do modern ghetto. My ghetto all sounds like 1975. But anyway, look at what they do for entertainment. They sit and play games that instead of doing something productive, going out and doing something fun and actually playing a game, they sit in front and just make a character on the screen who they can project themselves into, go for glory and killing the bad guys and it takes no effort at all. So you get this effortless ego stroke, and then you become accustomed to that. It's almost like a drug. I really believe it has very great similarities to drugs. That's why people, I think, become almost addicted to the gaming lifestyle, because they want that adrenaline hit, that stroke from getting to the big boss, and leveling up, and casting a badass spell that saves the whole group, and feeling that glory, even though it's not and as harmless entertainment, it's fine, but it's kind of like alcohol in that way. A little and you're fine. And if you can keep it at a little or keep it moderate, that's fine too. But if you're getting shit-faced every night, you've got a problem. And I think the same thing is true with gaming, quite frankly. And I actually I don't think it's a cause. I think it's a symptom. We would rather sit and get the cheap glory, the cheap good time fix, from twiddling our thumbs on our phones and making little figures scurry around and do whatever, than go out and do the hard work of actually accomplishing something.
Yes, totally. As somebody who is an avid gamer, you're entirely right. I see that all too commonplace.
Sure.
And getting back to the article, as somebody who's worked back of house in a lot of restaurants, this is nothing new, really. There have been times where, I'm a cook, I'm a prep chef, whatever, where, we don't have any food runners and we've only got 2 servers tonight. I need a couple people who can run the food. Yo, my hand's going up. I want to do something a little bit different from the monotony. Get it out there. I'm not paying paid anymore for putting on the extra hats. I just want the team to succeed, to fulfill our mission. And I really have to say, like, if I wasn't if I was physically able to, I would be back in there no problem, because it's a buyer's market, people. If you can get back if you were in one of these types of jobs before and you can get back into it, go now. You can some of my former colleagues have left their previous places before the pandemic and have gotten significantly more money at new jobs because they were able to negotiate better with these people who do have to have such a staffing shortage. And these are the types of people who are good workers. They have a good work ethic. So that's sort of a non-issue with these people. They're just, they read the winds and they said, you know what? I love this restaurant, but you're not willing to renegotiate my contract, or you can't because the contract isn't renegotiable. So I'm going to leave for a new place and get more money. And if people can do that, I would recommend it from what I've seen happen. I've even had former employers call me back and ask me, and I'm like, I wish I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Serenity.
No, I have a question, because I wasn't paying attention when this happened during a certain presidency. When the housing bubble burst, so right now in housing, it's a seller's market. Right now in jobs, it's an employees market, basically an employees market.
In a lot of sectors, yeah.
So we saw what happened when the housing bubble burst, and that's going to come. Like, what happens if both the employment bubble and the housing bubble burst at the same time?
I can tell you what's going to cause it is the reduction in these benefits and the eligibility of the benefits. Because up here in Canada, they shortened it. You don't need X amount of months. You only need, a third of that or whatever. that's going to dry up, and there's going to be big groups of people then vying for the same jobs again in these sectors, and that's when it's going to become the employers market, and people are going to be like, well, shit, how is this person who's been here for 2 months more than me making $6 more? Well, maybe because they went back to work sooner. They saw, so I don't think it's going to be a bubble per se, but I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, shit, I guess I have to work for minimum wage to survive now instead of doing what I should have and gotten back off my focus when things started opening up.
The thing about Serenity's question, and it's a really good question, and it's hard as shit to answer.
Yeah, I kind of figured, but I figured I'd ask it.
Yeah.
No, it's really on point. The thing of it is that you've got two different, and they're not unrelated, but there are so many factors in each that are unrelated to one another that they're not really happening in concert. But I know what you're saying. Those things just happen to be, those icebergs just happen to be heading for our ship both at the same time. And in times like this, there are always economists who predict what's going to happen, and they have about as much chance as flipping a coin in my 50 years of watching this sort of thing. I think it's a highly unpredictable environment right now.
Well,
Very hard to say what's going to happen.
I don't want to call it paranoia because I don't think it's paranoia. But it's just the worry because I saw kind of on the sidelines because my family, because we're country as hell. So that country just ended up protecting us. And my state actually did pretty well during the recession. But it's the fear of what it will do to other people because of just like, how bad is this going to hit? And because I remember hearing how bad it hit under that presidency, and how many people, because I had friends whose families lost everything. And
let me ask you, which housing bubble are you referring to? Are you talking about the 2008 credit crisis?
Yes, sorry, the 2008.
Because the thing about the 2008 credit crisis, and we really don't have time to go into it in a lot of depth, was a lot of that was about institutional debt that was backed by mortgages.
Bingo.
And where we start to, and a lot of the problems there was people decided we should make a whole bunch of money by playing games with buying and selling risk. Mm-hmm. And that's a thing that these people would do. They were using these very novel financial instruments to package this risk up in exchange for money. And they were trading these things back and forth. I know this because I know somebody who actually created these things. She would create these vehicles, and then the one of the big law firms that she works for, which I won't mention, would trademark it. And if you wanted to get a put, straddle, thrust, special double Walensky, you would have to, go to them, to Fitch or Skadden or whoever it was that was selling you this thing. And so there were people buying and selling these financial instruments that they did not understand at all. All they were doing was looking at this huge amount of money they were going to make with your money that you put in the bank.
They had stockbrokers with sociology degrees selling this shit.
Yeah, it was messed up. Now, previously there have been instances where certain types of presidents, more progressive ones, would push Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to basically give mortgages to people to increase home ownership.
Yeah.
And
which we're
they
kind of
gave out a
seeing
lot
again.
of loans. They gave out a lot of loans to people that were extremely over leveraged in these loans. And then one little economic hiccup and they would just sort of lose everything. And I don't really blame people for wanting to own a house. But when the government goes in and puts its finger on the scale like that, it almost inevitably causes a problem down the road. Everything's fine until things contract just a little bit. And then all that leverage just screws everything up. But the national ban on evictions expired today.
Which that might have something to do with getting people out there for jobs.
So that's a thing. Because, well, according to CNBC, most at risk are people of color, single mothers, and those who haven't been vaccinated yet. kind of an interesting thing to put in the
Whoa.
article. That's the way the article's
Receipts,
written.
please. Receipts, please.
Yeah,
Where did
exactly.
Yeah, that last
Um,
one.
They
That last
pulled
one
that
I'm gonna
from the
need.
dark place. They just wiped it off and said, "Ta-da!"
Basically, because how?
So there's this story here talking about how horrible it is, and then I go over one other story, and there's somebody who's got an opinion piece on Fox Business saying concern over foreclosure increases after forbearance ends, wildly overestimated, expert says.
Huh?
So I've got one expert telling me, forget about it, and then other people
Yeah.
saying, no, it's the end of the world, the sky is falling.
I feel like it's somewhere in the middle.
I would not be surprised if there are a number of people in the renters market who just took advantage of it. I'm not saying there aren't people who had to take advantage of it, but I know there have to be some subset of those people out there that just said, screw it. If I don't have to pay, I don't have to pay, and they can't kick me out.
Yeah.
Because there are people like that in this world. And as far as mortgages goes, they've rearranged a lot of the mortgages so the payments, essentially you didn't have to pay, you're still being charged interest, and they're just adding more payments at the end of the loan. So they just took a year's worth of payments and moved them to the end. Okay, everybody's fine. The problem is the ma and pa people that own like a few rental properties who have had renters that have not been paying for all this time, and they're not big companies. They're just
My
getting
son
screwed.
with his renters for a year almost, who have not paid him a dime, and because they can't be evicted, he filed eviction papers, and they're actually going to be evicted in about a week. And he's already talked. He's got his lawyers lined up. He's talked with fortunately he's friends with the sheriff. And they're going to just descend on these assholes and throw them in the street.
Good.
And I am absolutely thrilled.
Good luck getting a lease somewhere else, because something like that's got to follow you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, the internet is forever, my friend.
Yeah.
So what were these people spending their unemployment on?
Or like the checks they got, like, because I had slight anecdote. I had friends who did that. The thing is, West Virginia is really weird about the eviction ban. There were still people evicting and kicking people out because some of the small owners were like, because I think there's a loophole in the eviction ban where if the property changes what type of property it is, they can kick them. Like if it goes from residential to commercial. And around here, some people had places like there was apartments above like restaurants. So they were just going to they just changed it to commercial to kick these people out. But I had friends who didn't pay for like 6 months, even though they could. They had jobs. They had jobs the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
So it's more commonplace than I thought it might be.
Oh yeah, no, they got mad when the person was actually like, you need to pay me, and they got mad. They're like, well, you let me get away with it before, and that's
where my sympathy ends.
Oh yeah.
Don't you need like letters of recommendation from previous landowners?
It depends. Most places will just ask where you lived in the last 7 years, and they ask for it's basically they treat it like how like the resumes are down here too, where or the applications for a job. Let me rephrase that. Where it's like you have to give references like where you lived before, and you can say don't call them, and but you have to give a reason why. And if they don't like that reason, they'll still call. And if you don't give a phone number, they'll just there's a lot of places that will just kind of go, nope, fuck you, just not even give you a chance at that point.
Okay.
But that's at least been my experience with apartments and the ones I know with my friends. Yeah.
Well, if you're okay with it, I'm going to go ahead and pivot to another section, which is, what is it called? Mostly lawful crime. There we are. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. Mostly lawful crime. Gavin Newsom's San Francisco wine shop has been broken into. Again. San Francisco police responded to an alarm on the 3200 block of Fillmore Street early Tuesday morning to find a broken window, the police department said. Plumpjack Winery and Spirits, lovely. While police did not identify what shop was broken into, a spokesperson confirmed to the San Francisco Chronicle on Tuesday that Plumpjack Wine and Spirit, the wine shop owned by California Governor Gavin Newsom, was the target. So, yeah. that's a thing. So we have Gavin Newsom's wine shop was broken into because there's no increase in crime whatsoever. Then we had this thing, which is a beautiful, beautiful article. LA Mayor Garcetti's house vandalized after limiting homeless encampments. Protesters, a crowd of about 50 people began protesting at the residence at about 7:30 p.m. Thursday, according to the Los Angeles Police Department. The protests started peacefully, but ended with dozens of officers responding in riot gear, dispersing the crowd. No one was in danger. Our role last night, blah, 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 blah. People held signs saying, 5 unhoused people a day die in Garcetti's LA, and your sweeps are violent. We will not be silent. Yeah, these people are a powerful interest group. They really are. And a lot of the stuff that they're doing, I mean, we'll talk about homelessness at some later date, because there's a bunch of stuff I really want to say about this particular topic. But the mob doesn't seem to be at all afraid of just going to the mayor of Los Angeles's house and causing trouble. It's just like, it's one of those things that looks pretty scary, because I don't remember society kind of flying apart like this before.
Is that one of the areas that were defunded? Oh.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And former U.S. Senator was mugged in the street. Hits out at Trump for claiming defunding police led to crime. Well, Oakland is, when it comes to crime, kind of a shithole. And this is the same city I was talking about in a previous episode. I think it was last week or the week before.
Yeah.
So here we are, a former U.S. Senator, United States Senator, not state senator, Barbara Boxer, was mugged in broad daylight. Somebody basically came, threatened her, took her cell phone, hopped in a car, and drove away.
They didn't kill her?
And they didn't kill her. It was just a property crime. But it's so bad that retired U.S. senators are now being robbed in Oakland in broad daylight. You can't tell me you don't have a crime problem if this kind of shit's going on.
This flipping that they're blaming Trump. I saw Speaker Pelosi mention that, and I also saw some of the proceedings of what's his name, Texas guy, looks like Chunky Wolverine, Ted Cruz.
What?
No.
Ted Cruz is on the floor talking about how, they're trying to flip this on Republicans, but if you looked at the voting, like not a single Democrat voted against defunding some of these departments. That's why I was asking if the LA department was one of the ones that were quote unquote defunded.
LA was one where they were talking about defunding. And the thing about LA, as far as the police goes, LA is interesting because you have, on the one hand, you have the Los Angeles Police Department, and on the other hand, you have the LA County Sheriffs. Yeah. The LA County Sheriff is nothing like the Los Angeles Police Department. And they actually have kind of their own issues that, I'm very pro law enforcement, but there's some kind of scary stuff that goes on within the LA Sheriff's Department. I'm not saying that I don't understand why they get this way, but they've been under investigation from the FBI for a few years now.
Oh, yeah.
Looking into some of the kind of irregular stuff that's been happening in the LA Sheriff's Department.
It's irregularities of confiscated merchandise and money disappearing, I think is what it was, if I remember right. I want to say.
Well, that and also
from crime.
That they have supposedly informal clubs within the department that you have to basically bust people for certain types of violations before you can get in, and they compete, which is kind of an incentive to overdo.
I can see.
Well, then there's the ones that are like for decades where they're on the take from whatever gang is in power at the time. But that's every place.
But you kind of have to be, you've got to be pretty hard to go up against some of those gangs. The gangs in LA are no joke.
Yeah, they're not.
No joke at all. And I think a certain amount of over-response from the sheriffs is a little understandable. I'm not sure I could do a better job than they do. But at the same time, don't turn law enforcement into a game.
Yeah, don't do it.
Or take
look at Chicago. Stuff. Chicago played that game and they're not winning.
But LA is, full of homeless people, drug addicts, tent cities. It's becoming largely unlivable, and that's why a lot of people are moving out. Joe Rogan seems very happy in Texas now.
There's absolute massive piles of just garbage in front of nice apartment buildings, and nobody does anything about it because, like, oh, we can't.
It's like Venice Beach.
serve
Like
the people.
someone actually took a video of, it was a mother, and if I was a mother with a kid in a stroller, I would have gotten nowhere near these people. But she took a video down at Venice Beach, and every single spot there was a grassy like section around Venice Beach. There's tent cities. Every single like all the time. It's ridiculous.
Well, the sheriff has actually said that if LA isn't going to do something about it, he's going to step in and take care of that.
That was the new guy, right?
Well, I don't know if he's new. He was elected a while ago.
Take care of it how?
They've already started ripping stuff down.
Start relocating people. They go and they hand out notices and says, this is unacceptable. You know, this is where you can
That's
find
not
shelter.
taking.
Yeah.
That's not taking care of it.
It wasn't a euphemism, but they were going to take care of it from the perspective of Venice Beach, which is this famous place all around the world and a huge tourist draw.
Venice Beach. Been there many
is
times.
no longer going to become a shanty town.
Yeah.
Because, oh boy.
So I mean,
That's heartbreaking because that is actually an awesome place, or at least it used to be.
Yeah,
so much for Baywatch.
Yeah.
I've heard the smell is terrible.
Oh, that's so bad. Well, I remember it just San Francisco itself when it started going downhill a few years ago, how like sad I was because I loved visiting. I just love that city.
Yep. And as a result, and I think all the law enforcement stuff has a very large part to do with all this, is people see stuff just kind of flying apart. And I think this is probably a pretty big part of Biden's approval dropping.
Well,
nice segue. Nice segue.
I would love to see some of these Democratic-run cities actually think, well, maybe we shouldn't bring in the same damn shitty leadership year after year after year and then wonder why our city never gets any better.
Can I just say you're on fire with the segues, Harry? I'm just saying that.
Thank you. Well, but like Lightfoot, for instance, you know, why do you think your city is bad off as it is when you have this person as your mayor? No. I mean, to her credit, London Breed, who's the mayor of San Francisco, actually every now and then I see her have like an inkling that there might be a clue somewhere in her head that just doing the same old broken stuff isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But from somebody like Lightfoot, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You make a great point, Harry. When Lori Lightfoot was elected, I had hope for that city, and I'll tell you why. Because I knew a little bit about her, and she actually is a very intelligent person, but had not, in my opinion, proven herself capable as an administrator. Mm-hmm. And this is the classic problem of when you put an activist or a legislator, somebody else, legislators and activists are project oriented. If you want to be an effective administrator, you have to be process oriented. You see things in long lines that stretch into the future, and you keep those you keep the furrows nice and neat. You keep the processes running. You keep A hooking to B to C to D to E. You're thinking linearly and all that kind of stuff. It's a completely different type of thinking. And I thought, boy, here's this. I disagree with her on most policy issues, but she's obviously intelligent and capable in other areas. Maybe she'll be a breath of fresh air. And she has completely and utterly not only flamed out but sold out to the race baiting, race hustling part of the left that really wants to take this country to a very dangerous place, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They want to. Well, Biden. Really quickly, Biden. The focus on people being dissatisfied with the top is great. The problem is a lot of the stuff that I think is pissing people off about that they're blaming on Biden is just as much, if not more, a problem at the local level.
Oh yeah.
Save a little bit of your dissatisfaction for the local mayors who screw everything up. And your incompetent city council and your incompetent governors. There's a lot of blame to go around. I think 2022 is going to be
interesting.
A very, very, very interesting election.
That was almost exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, as much as I dislike Biden, that's not his purview, really. I mean, he can say something to the mayors, but it's ultimately their responsibility.
Biden's a
thankfully,
non-factor because of his
Oh
brain.
yeah, agreed.
multiple
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
You take into consideration the New York City running. Eric Adams is a Democrat. He's a very traditionally liberal candidate, but he's saying all the right things, like bringing back certain policies and refunding the police and the specialized anti-gun task forces that the wokerati, because in their ire, got rid of under Cuomo.
Yeah.
Not Cuomo. City mayor.
De Blasio.
New York. De Blasio.
Thank you. I would bring that too. I was like, wait a minute.
Because Eric Adams, again, they're both Democrats, but Eric Adams is basically saying everything de Blasio has done has been wrong. Just look at the statistics. I want to bring these back, but I also want to, and he again, a Democrat, he's like, and I want to help people. I want to try to make this better than it is. And these policies, they're neither left nor right. They're just sensible reactions to increases in certain types of crime being perpetuated by certain groups of, not necessarily by their demographics, but by their culture, socioeconomic status. These kinds of things that prop up, we can't ignore, and that's one reason why I'm really intrigued to see how the running goes with Eric Adams, because I think even though some people might go, "Oh, Democrat, great, that's just what New York needs," I honestly think that he would be, regardless of left, right, or party affiliation, would be a breath of fresh air to help stem the tide of this hemorrhaging that's going on in these major cities.
You sound like me talking about Lori Lightfoot before she took off.
No, I know, but hold on. I actually didn't mean to come off as partisan about the whole Republican-Democrat thing. When I meant a Republican mayor, if it's somebody in a Democratic area, right, where there's literally no way they're not going to vote for a Republican, if they have a relatively middle-of-the-road more conservative Democrat who's got their head on straight, fine. I don't really care about the party affiliation. Just stop voting in these nitwits, because you're not doing yourselves any favors. Dr. Functional, indulge me for a moment, if you will. When you talk about, or when people talk about spending more money on police, I think in some ways that's not doing the issue justice. Because it's like saying if we gave more money to the schools, we would necessarily get better students.
Sure. But hold up.
I think you have
there's specific programs
to do more
I'm
than just
referring
throw
to.
money in. Right. I'm just thinking that the problem might not be the amount of money you're spending, but it might be the way we constrain the police in terms of dealing with the populace. Because I think it was the chief of police of Chicago just a few days ago basically had a press conference and said, look, I can't do my job because I capture these people who are, accused of attempted murder, and they're being turned back out on the streets by the judges that we have.
Yep.
Yeah, you said they keep seeing them. They're not unknown to them.
Yeah, they keep arresting them for very violent crimes, and they just keep showing up, every couple days in the police station. Yeah.
I think
that's a huge failing of it. But specifically, what I was referring to in giving back the money in like New York City, the anti-gang task force had their budget slashed by like 60%. The anti-gun gun task force, it had a really stupid euphemistic name, was completely eliminated, and that was a semi-undercover task force that would infiltrate and try to find out where illegal firearms are coming from.
Right.
And that saw marked difference in the amount of homicides by firearm in New York City alone. That's what I mean. I don't mean just throw money at the problem. We go back to the programs. Okay.
I know that's what you
meant.
Go back
to the programs.
I'm just saying that in addition to that, I think that it's naive to think that if we just restore the funding with all the other things that have taken place, right, in terms of how we've changed how policing is done, that it will not be enough to basically get the result that we want.
Yeah, because the judiciary is kind of fakakta.
The judiciary is a problem, and I'm not in favor of police brutality or, running around shooting unarmed people. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that the idea that we can't even chase criminals unless we have a reason, unless we know with a high degree of certainty that they're going to commit a violent crime, I just let them go. We'll catch up with them eventually. No. We actually need to give people tickets for breaking windows. We need to do all of the stuff that police used to do, all of the good stuff. It's not enough just to fund the gang task force. They need to actually be able to interact with these people in ways that maybe and prosecute, and maybe get rid of bring back cash bail. Because we've got people committing crimes who are out on bail, who are out on what would have been bail in some instances, according to the police chief in Chicago.
And this is the thing with the whole Biden approval rating dropping because of it. And this was my problem when people were pushing a certain female president. I'm trying not to say names so we don't. It
was her turn.
But my thing has always been this: we are not set up in a way that, while the president does affect some things, if you want things to change, you have to start at the local level, which means mayors, sheriffs, all that kind of shit. But no one wants to do that. I'm one of the few people I know in my age group where I'm at, and we're pretty country around here, as everybody knows. But I'm one of the few people who actually voted for someone other than just the president, because I want the local. The reason why my state didn't go to crap in many cases compared to some other states is because of the fact that our governor didn't completely shut everything down and destroy everything and do all that shit. And that saved us because we're just not in the same position. Are we a perfect state? No. But it's and a lot of other states are the same way, but no one actually wants to vote for these people. They don't want to vote for senators. They don't want to vote for even governors and senators or anything. They don't even want to vote for mayor.
Bitching is easier.
Yeah, because it's just the president will change it. No, the president won't. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a D, an R, or an I, or anything in between. I don't care what letters at the end of their name.
Yeah.
I've reached that age where I've stopped giving a crap.
And
do a good job. Do your job for your people. That's all you got to do at this point.
What I was saying, it's also, you can't, I don't disregard Biden in all of this, the federal leadership, because that does have a play on the narrative. There's a reason why this type of stuff took hold almost across the country, right? It's because the top leadership was on board with this, and he was, smiling with his thumb up, not even knowing where he was. Mm-hmm. And I think that definitely adds to the approval dropping. His recent visits with the G7 and G12 and other foreign sort of stories that have been going on, with his meeting with Putin, I think that took a huge chunk out of his approval rating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but there's no more mean tweets, so it's all worth it.
Boy.
Yeah,
I can come out from my pillow.
We're not even bringing up the border because obviously the crime and unrest is only one part of this. I think that the border is another part of it, but that's crime too. Being here, telling a bunch of people it's okay if you break the law, we don't care. Just come on in.
As long as you're from that one border, if you come from the waterway, you're not allowed here. We're going to send you back.
And they're keeping ICE from doing their job. That whole thing, this whole split brain thing they're doing about Cuba, I don't even understand it. It's really distress. It's so transparent, and I don't want to think like this. It bothers me that we would actually have people in charge who could be. I mean, that's just kind of evil. It's like we want all these people to come in, but the people fleeing terrible communists in Cuba, we don't want them. I don't know. I've seen what those people can do repairing cars. I think we could use more people from Cuba coming over.
Oh yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, actually,
have you seen what they do with 60-year-old cars?
If you look at what Cuban Americans have done, they are an immigrant success story. In a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
They do very, very well.
But they also don't vote a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're practically whatever.
They're kind of the Israel of immigrants.
Yeah,
you're not. All the other immigrants are the idiots.
Skep is very right on that one. They very much are.
Yeah, I think for the clip channel, that's the clip for tonight. SkepTok says that Cuba is the Israel of immigrants. Excellent. So here's a thing.
Sorry.
So Disclosed TV is basically saying this, and this is rather than me bringing up the whole big article from Reuters, because I just don't want to deal with their nonsense right now. This is the takeaway from it. Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, YouTube, and other big tech companies will now add content to a shared counterterrorism key database, aiming to crack down on material from white supremacists and far-right militias. That's according to Reuters.
And whose point of view are they going to use to define what that is?
Well, a
sets the
key
parameter?
database is an interesting way of phrasing it, because essentially that just means we're going to write down a bunch of buzzwords which we think are associated with these people we don't like. And if anybody uses those buzzwords on any platform, they will get in trouble. What they're trying to do is create a central
80-year-old
database
grandma.
Right. They're trying to create a centralized database that all social media sites will use to determine what is acceptable and not acceptable speech.
Good luck with that.
That's actually not that hard to do, because remember Jen Psaki was talking the other day about it doesn't seem right that somebody can be suspended from one social media site but still have access to the other ones. Well, this came out right after that. That was basically her just sort of priming the pump a little bit for this new idea that they had.
Brain cunt. I am so done with Jen Psaki. Fuck her and the horse she rode in on.
She's a Karen. She is a
It's
Karen.
not her
She's
idea.
the
She's just the
ultimate.
mouthpiece.
She's Attila the Karen, yeah, but she's
Attila the Karen.
she's totally bought in, totally on board.
Oh,
Attila the
she's
Karen.
for it.
That is beautiful.
She would line
That
her
is good.
children up
Okay.
and shoot them if they were.
Second clip for this episode. Jen Psaki is Attila the Karen.
She is.
I don't know where that came from, but
Hey,
there
it was
is.
good. That's all that matters.
That was
Lord's
beautiful.
work through you.
Inspiration.
is
I love it. I love it.
Step 5 or 6 in the 10 steps of genocide.
Oh,
God.
I'm not joking.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the key database, and simply when you talk about databases, a lot of types of databases use what's called key value pairs. And so the idea simply meaning that if they see a particular word, that implies that something bad about you. It means that grandma's been listening to a little too much Alex Jones, so we need to put her in timeout on Twitter. The idea that these supposedly private businesses, right, because we can't regulate them because they're private, but we can have a mouthpiece for the government, make a statement, and then the next day they can all completely organically decide that they're going to participate in this system where they basically share naughty words in a list with each other. It's like, no, this is the government literally controlling these private businesses. Any semblance that these are private businesses running their own show when it comes to things like this type of speech, the veil is gone.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about a
Snatched
conspiracy.
away.
I'm talking about I am not a conspiracy person. I mean, I've seen lots of
This is
conspiracy
being
stuff
done
in the last week.
nakedly.
This is just right out in the open.
Right,
I'm not,
right.
I'm
No,
not
they're-
assuming
they're-
anything.
Listen, okay. I think one thing, it's one thing to get outraged about what they're doing, and this is all, feels like 1984 and whatnot. It might be instructive to let's bring this up to the 50,000 foot level. What is really going on here? And I think what is really going on, if I had to characterize what's going on in our society, is we're reacting to having all this information and all of this cross connectivity and ability to communicate with one another and to show our stuff to one another and read each other's stuff. I think that's what really is causing a lot of the brouhaha in the world right now. We're adjusting to that. We're trying to formulate rules how to be. And what happens is, in times like that, it draws out sometimes the best, but usually with humans, unfortunately, it's the worst instincts. And so the paranoia of the left that they don't control enough stuff to make the perfect utopia that they have in mind, the paranoia of the right that they don't have enough freedom to do to make all the money that they want to do and let the other one starve, or whatever. Whatever stereotype. My point is that all of that stuff gets magnified, and the other thing is it's being displayed to us. So we're getting a concentrated dose. We used to get a gruel thin drip of news from the evening news every night when I was a kid, and now what we get is we are flooded with this stuff all the time, and we react to it, and then we have the ability to join the system. This is a system that's feeding back on itself, and I think eventually, I really do think, and this may be a hopeful thought, which is unusual for me. I really think that we may learn how to live in this world, and how to that what will happen is it'll go left for a while, and then the right will get so uncomfortable they'll start making the left uncomfortable. The left will modify its position, then it'll shift over to the right. The right will get all fascisty and whatnot, and the left will get uncomfortable, and it'll be this shifting thing. But it's like a calming pond, and eventually it will reach sort of a stasis that will be a lot more healthy. I think we're going through a tough time right now, but I have a lot of hope for the future. I really, truly do.
Well,
I
it's
do
like
too.
Harry said a lot of streams ago, like a lot. Harry said, right now we can't see the forest for the trees. We're in that moment. And that's been the one thing that's been keeping me from doing something so I can see color again. Well, that belief, please.
Well, no, to extend your analogy, what we're doing is we're examining each leaf of every tree under the microscope, and what then, based on what we see under the microscope, we say the whole forest is like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
I
according
see
to
this as
Geode sent me an article here, and I guess the Germans are looking into this as well, because to me it is a huge antitrust thing when all the businesses are colluding like this. Sorry, Functional, you were going to say?
Well, I mean, it leads into this. I just see that the Western governments are using these big tech companies as sort of the obfuscation tool, being that they're the modern public square, a digital public square, to enact China's social credit system.
Or something very much like it.
Very much like it, yeah.
Yeah. It's I like I said, I tend not to like to go for full-on conspiracy theories, because there are a lot of people saying things about well, I won't even repeat what a lot of these things were, but people are very worked up about Blackstone buying up a lot of properties. Now, the general theory is that we're trying to turn all of the people in the United States into serfs, right? And that nobody will actually own their house. Now, the guy who was in charge of Blackstone was, he gave an interview recently, and he said a number of things which weren't entirely stupid. One of them was that a lot of people have not been doing a very good job of saving for retirement, and that we're going to see a lot of people showing up at retirement age, or what used to be retirement age, finding that it isn't going to happen. And that the retirement age is probably going to have to be increased. I don't think that's a very popular thing to say, and I don't think this guy cares at all what people think about him. But I was trying to think about it from Blackstone's perspective in terms of buying these houses. If you think you're going into a big hyperinflationary period, wouldn't it make sense to just start buying capital assets?
Yeah.
Since they hold value in inflation.
Since they hold value, I mean, it may just be that it's just the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
That they don't necessarily want to become a huge property management company. That maybe
I can cut to the chase.
Doing this.
I can cut to the chase for you really quick. All right, these companies are managed by very sophisticated people who, and they are value buyers. That's all they do is buy value. And in times like this, sometimes it's a good thing to hold cash. Other times, when cash is going to get weak, it's better to hold property or something else. And that's all that's happening here. It's not a conspiracy. There's nothing weird going on. It's just people are calling essentially calling the United States government on its irresponsibility with the dollar. You can say you've been abusing the dollar, and now you've got a 5% inflation rate. We're going to look around for hard assets to put our value, to store our value in that instead of storing it as cash. That's all they're doing.
But that's kind of the. Sorry.
No, I would just really quickly. I think a lot of the capital flow out of places like Hong Kong is starting to slow down too.
Mm-hmm.
So that could also be part of it. I mean, I've been to Vancouver, and I know there's huge amounts of investment. A lot of Hong Kong Chinese money got moved into there. So Sora's seen it firsthand, too. There's a lot more going on, but people have a tendency to really enjoy conspiracy theories. They're very attractive to us. And Aiden Paladin did a really great video on that. By the way, there was an interview with Jonathan Haidt with Bridget Fetisi, when he was on Walk-Ins Welcome, which is really worth a listen. I put a link in the chat. I recommend that actually anybody who hasn't heard Jonathan Haidt talk before, this would not be a bad thing for you to get into. He makes a lot of really interesting points about kind of social morality, and he was one of the early people to call what was going to happen with a lot of the progressive wave. And he has an associate who's been looking at different he's like a mathematical historian who's, much like I did in previous episodes, is talking about 60-year cycles of different types of social change. I can't do it all justice. It's an hour and a half of somebody else who's really very good at their job talking. Please just go check that out when you're done with us here. So sorry about that, Serenity. Go ahead and talk.
No, well, it's just like, it's the whole thing of like, and I understand not everybody can do this because there's financial things, but it's one of the reason why they always talk about it's better to own a house than rent. And the reason why it's like my family owns the house that we have outright. Now, does this mean it stops us from paying property taxes? No. And stuff can still go wrong. But like Skep said, there's the ebbs and the flows. There's times when cash is good to have. There's times when it's good to have property. And it's hard to guess when that's going to happen, but they do come in waves. So if you prepare as best you can usually ride this kind of shit out for a good bit. It's one of those things where it's kind of like the retirement stuff is going to hit hard with a little bit of the Gen Xers, but mostly it's going to be my generation, because my generation, either through ignorance or arrogance or a little bit of both, there's quite a few of them who refuse to try to do anything like saving for retirement because they think they're owed something. Like, I've been saving for retirement because my family beat that into my head as a child since I had my first job. I got my first long-term mutual fund when I was 22.
No, that's good.
And that's the thing. It's been taught to me, and some of these people, it just might be they're not taught, or they honestly think they're just going to get something out of the world. And that's not how it works. You're not going to be
those TV shows like on HGTV where you see these 20-somethings shopping for houses, and there's always,
God,
and like a lot of times it's the woman who'll be saying, "We're looking for our forever house." It's like, bitch, please, you don't need your forever house when you're like 25. What do you mean you're going to get your forever house? Oh, this 3,000 square foot house isn't big enough. It's like, what?
It's like, no, get the tiny little 1,200 square foot max house. Live there for a bit. Figure out if you want kids. Figure out if you want to stay married to this person you're married to.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Well, because the guys on these shows are always terrible, too. It's like, well, I just need my special walk-in closet for my shoes. It's like, okay, dude, you both deserve each other. I hate all of these people.
Where's the boyfriend? Shows. Where's your wife's boyfriend? Where's that?
Oh,
no,
well.
But it's that whole thing of prepare as best you can, guys. Legitimately, you can't prepare for everything, and life has a tendency to go fuck you. But
right. Shall we talk about the easy stuff now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Happy
all right. Yeah, the easy stuff. Okay, so it snowed in southern Brazil, which is a thing that doesn't usually happen.
It snowed. This was not a little sprinkling. This was holy shit.
Yeah, well, it's enough to cover the ground, which.
Wait till you see the video, Skep. Like it looks like
Yeah.
something out of like where my area gets
So
snow.
more than
Like,
40 cities in the state of Rio Grande do Sul had icy conditions, and at least 33 municipalities had snow. Reported the don't care, but yeah, this is amazing. You don't think of snow in southern Brazil, but it is winter down there. So that's one thing. It's not like it's happening in the middle of summer. So just remember that they're upside down like Terry Diamantis is.
They're in imaginary world.
yeah.
They're an imaginary
Upside down.
world. Yeah, so this is cool because the thing about weather is the abnormal is normal. Anywhere at any given time on this planet, there is going to be some place that has massively abnormal weather. And it doesn't mean that it's climate change. It doesn't mean that it's not climate change. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that the weather's weird in that
Bless
spot
you,
on a
Harry.
given day.
Well,
That's
didn't
all
like
it means.
Egypt
And it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
in 2007 Egypt got snow for the first time in like I think they
Yes.
said in like 400
Yes.
years or something like that. And the picture of the
Yeah.
guy with the snowball about ready to just beam it, like beat the head,
Mhm.
throw it on the head
What
of his friend.
What an
Like,
awesome world we live in where it can
I
snow on
know.
the pyramids.
All right.
So
It-
cool.
you know, it's let's see. Yeah, it was last winter. Last winter, it snowed here in Texas. It doesn't snow much in Texas, folks. It
Yeah.
just doesn't, particularly not in this part. When you hear about snow in Texas, it's up in the Panhandle.
Mhm.
We are considerably we're 500 miles from there. It does not snow. I mean, I am in the heart of Texas, literally the heart of Texas, right where they put the star on maps, and we just never see it. And it was so cool. My grandkids were building snowmen, little tiny snowmen. Just a couple 3 inches of snow, and then it snowed 2 more inches after that, and they just thought, "Man, this is amazing." And then
Yeah.
then it got up to 70 degrees and then vanished. But
As long as they didn't have to do what we have to do up here, which is watch Frosty slowly die. As long
yeah,
as they didn't have to deal
Yeah.
with that.
Frosty
Yeah.
felt nothing. Frosty felt nothing in Texas.
Yeah, Frosty's just there half melted, just going,
Yep.
kill me,
Like the carrot is sticking straight up. Like
kill me. For the
Life
love of
is
God, kill me. Take this hat off my head, kill me.
Hey, Harry,
Yes, sir.
Before you go on, and the world is interesting. I think it's cool that it snowed in Brazil and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Something that, and the previous article just tickled in the back of my head, and I think it's an interesting thing for anybody who wants to talk about it or whatever. Is Google going to have to become a regulated public utility?
oh, that'll be interesting.
I
Um,
think that's a very interesting topic for a stream.
I actually will, this is actually something we should probably defer to the Tuesday show. I know a guy who runs a show on Tuesday where these kinds of topics get discussed.
It might come up.
I could put a word in with him, and I can because I can
Put
give
bug in
because
his ear.
I can actually argue either side of this if you want. You just tell me which side of the argument you want me to take, and I'll do it. I'll happily
that might not
argue
be
for
that
either
might
one.
not be a bad way to explore it. Would be a back and forth between you and me about this.
Yeah, because I will give.
And I'm the same way. I can argue either side too, for the same
exactly.
reasons that you can.
And then we'll let Prospero judge. And, yeah, there probably might be some. There might be some profanity.
I'm so done with both of you.
Okay, so the last thing is I don't understand all these aesthetics that you young ladies keep talking about.
Sorry,
Also,
no. Harry, it's aesthetic.
Yeah.
To say it,
have
you
to say it in a very
with like
specific
I have to say it with like a
sparkles
lisp.
and- Yeah.
Aesthetic.
Yeah, it has to be.
Okay, I don't get it. I don't
italicized.
understand it. So one or both of you tell me about Goblin Core and what all this means.
Do you want to do it, or you want me to do it? Because I have no problem doing it.
You found that excellent article that explains what the cores are, so I think we should start there.
Okay, so basically anything with the word core and a few other ones like vaporwave's one of them that's technically an aesthetic as well, are basically just aesthetics that people take on. It's basically, put it in like a diagram sense, it's like having emo, and then emo has like 30 different little like core branches that come off of it.
Mhm.
And like Goblin Core, I think kind of falls under the emo just a tiny bit. But basically, that's what core C-O-R-E means when it's put at the end of the end of a
It's
word.
short.
Okay,
for
so
hardcore.
Goblin Core is the ugly part of nature, is what I'm saying.
Kind of, sorta. It's also liking. There's technically 3 that kind of fall into that same group, which is Dragon Core, Raven Core, and Goblin Core. Goblin Core is the more messy one, but they all like shiny things. So they like the glittery, like gold stuff, and they like crystal and like. But Goblin Core is a lot darker. It's darker colors. It's a little bit more emo. It's also, like you said, it's the dirtier and the uglier. So they like ugly things too. They're the people who are like, oh my god, it's so ugly, it's cute, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's them. And then you have, like I said, Raven Core people who just like dark colors and shiny things, and that's it. They want it to be pretty. And then there's the Dragon Core who just like shiny things. But that's kind of what it is, and it's just basically Goblin Core is what Cottage Core actually is, because
So it's just fashion categorizing, basically.
essentially it's home design, it's all that
everything.
kind of stuff.
It's all aspects of visual.
Yeah, there's
It's
there's
a
an
way
entire
of life.
Now here.
Yeah.
Hold on, you see this
Live it.
this one paragraph here. Just
Yeah.
Goblin Core fashion and paraphernalia are selling well on Etsy. There has been a 652% increase in searches for related items in the last month compared with the same time last year. Individual sellers attest at the Divine Occult shop that there has been a dramatic increase in sales of elf ear cuffs, while Goblin Core is the top search term at the Mushroom Babes, which sells body positive mushroom art.
no god no.
Body positive mushroom art.
Basically
Body positive mushroom art.
Here's your
it's
fungus
a little-
bar.
it's the little fat mushrooms. But basically Goblin Core is showing that people of a certain generation are starting to become very, I don't want to say depressed, but they're becoming kind of how goblins are in most like stories and stuff like that. They're very insulated, removed, very kind of territorial as well, because we're starting to see a lot more, at least on the places on Tumblr that I travel. There's a lot more talk of gatekeeping being good.
Oh god.
Yeah. Well, I agree with gatekeeping to a point, because some things need to be like, people need to be told, no,
Oh.
you can't change this shit.
Yeah. It's like the person who's like comes into a group and says, I don't like any aspect of it, and
No, let me
then-
change it. Yeah. It's
yeah.
like, fuck
Yeah,
you.
I know what you
But-
mean.
That's basically what this is saying to me, is that this is a lot of people becoming depressed with life. They're upset things are not going the way they want it to, so they're becoming more reserved. They're becoming more possessive. Harry, what the hell did you link? And all this
Something
kind of
I
stuff.
can't show on this stream.
Yeah.
From the
mhm.
body positive mushroom
I
shop.
see the first word. I know you can't show that.
We are
But-
living in a world run by childless cat ladies. That's probably
Yeah,
fair.
and that's the
Yeah.
other problem. I
as
think
somebody said last week.
I think it's a lot of also it's hitting them that maybe doing the child-free thing may not have been actually what they wanted. It's just what they thought they wanted. So I think that's also causing a little bit of a depressive nature thing to happen.
Mm.
So like this is expect a lot of depressed bitches. Like that's all I'm saying. It's
This is beautiful. Here's another paragraph from this
Oh,
great
Lord.
article. According to Brennan, it can be tied to queerness and anti-capitalism.
Which
In
it's not.
relation to queerness in particular, she says, there's something incredibly freeing about Goblin Core. Mushrooms are huge in the community, and some species of fungi have thousands of sexes. It's just
No.
about vibing
No.
and existing,
No.
not fitting
No.
into a mold, MOULD.
No, you dumb bitch. No.
I don't want to live on this world.
Like it's one of these things, and it's like you can tell she's Brennan is what someone would call as my pagan friends would call her, a plagan. You can
Mhm.
tell they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Oh,
Mhm.
pagan for
yeah.
pay?
Plague.
No. It's basically a fake pagan, someone who puts on the trappings of it but doesn't actually believe in any of it or know anything about it.
Okay.
That so they call them plagans.
That's
But yeah, no, it's
Don't wear the colors. Those guys will cut you.
yeah, exactly.
But anyway,
But it is the
real
thing of like
never mind.
anyone who's read any stories about goblins knows that they are not anti-capitalistic. Most of these
No.
people would have led Harry Potter, and they know those goblins in there are not anti-capitalistic.
Yeah, it's
They're-
probably the only
Yeah.
thing they've read.
Yeah,
What about Princess and the Goblin?
I think Dobby
Black
needs a
Cauldron.
union.
Hmm.
Black Cauldron, man, come on. Geodes, I want off the ride. You're not getting off the ride, bitch.
For Faramazi, there is an apt anti-consumption message. After long lockdowns, perhaps spending lots of money collecting and surrounding ourselves with a bunch of things we don't need, wearing loose, natural clothing, and taking lots of walks. I think we all need a little bit. We all feel a little bit like goblins right now. No, we don't.
Oh, none of these people even know what a goblin is. Like, what the fuck?
Yes, today and You're Going to
They
Die
mean
Alone.
like a brownie, maybe?
I think
Actually,
I think
in Texas, it's a participle.
I think they mean like brownies or like hobs or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they understand what a goblin is at all.
Well,
But here we are.
Damn
Sometimes choice is a bad thing. That's all I'm saying.
Sometimes the internet was a bad thing. Sometimes that's what it is.
Yes, humans were a mistake. The
Yep.
internet was a mistake. Etsy was
Burn
a
it all
mistake.
down.
Burn it all down.
But-
Does anybody have any final thoughts they'd like to share before we burn the stream down?
Dark energy was an adjustment.
There you
Dark
go.
energy was an adjustment.
Omegaverse.
No, seriously, we
I-
are at the end of our show. Any thoughts?
Sure.
I actually really like all these aesthetic grouping because as someone who likes to spend money and like
Yeah.
pretty things that have to do
Mhm.
with like fairy tales and like witchy woo, I'm a plagan. Not because I go do any of that, but I like the aesthetic of it. I'm like,
That's-
bring it on because that means I can buy cute T-shirts.
Well, there is
But
there's
that
an
should be
upside
the
to this.
extent of it.
You benefit
Speaking-
from the
speaking-
Plaganism.
Speaking as a dude, I can tell you this, that when a woman makes it very clear what it is she's collecting at a given moment, it really reduces the amount of stress on us. Just, leave us some hints. Oh, Goblin Core? Okay, I get a fat stuffed
Type that into
mushroom,
Etsy.
Just get all these, just type it into
Oh
Etsy.
yeah.
And then Christmas is so much easier when I don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to play 100 questions.
Mm-hmm.
There's like
So,
300
yes,
different
please.
aesthetics.
I welcome all of the aesthetics with the indexes on Tumblr that tell me what it is I'm supposed to buy.
Yes.
The experts on Tumblr.
That's
oh my
right.
God. What's wrong
Okay,
with us?
anybody have anything else?
No, sign us out of here.
I'm going to sign us out.
Function
Thank you
on-
for being with us tonight. I appreciate my panel in particular for taking the time to suggest things all week and take the time to spend a couple hours with us and chat. You guys have been delightful as always. I don't always get to read every single thing in the chat, but I usually go back and watch the show afterward just to kind of spot check sound and stuff, make sure I didn't miss anything in the discussion. Most of you are on the Minions server, and you're more than welcome to send me a DM if you want to talk about the show or what have you. I'm pretty available. Anyway, I hope everybody has a lovely remainder of their weekend, and now the zoo is closed. Good night.
Good night,
night.
everybody.